You know what makes a man fall for a woman and never recover? It's not her looks. It's not how much she gives. It's not even how much she loves him. It's the one thing she refuses to give away too easily, her boundary. The moment a man realizes that your peace, your self-respect, and your worth are not for sale, something shifts inside him. He stops testing you and starts cherishing you. Because deep down, every man wants the woman he can't control, but can trust. And that kind of woman, she's unforgettable. When I talk about boundaries, most people picture walls, hard lines that keep people out, something that pushes love away. But that's not what a real boundary is. A true boundary is not a wall. It's your value in motion. It's how you move through love without losing yourself. It's not about control, it's about clarity. And the moment a woman understands that, everything about how she's treated begins to change. Because here's the truth. A man doesn't fall in love with how much of yourself you give away. He falls in love with how much of yourself you keep. When you know who you are, what you stand for, and what your peace costs, that energy speaks louder than anything you could ever say. A man sees it, he feels it, and he begins to move differently around it. He starts to understand that love with you is not chaos, it's earned calm. Too many times, we mistake giving everything for loving deeply. But love without limits is not connection, it's self-abandonment. You can't teach someone to respect you by overextending yourself. You teach them by showing that your time, your energy, and your emotions are not things to be taken lightly. When a woman lives by that truth, she becomes magnetic. A man feels that he can't just walk in and take whatever he wants. He has to rise to meet her. That's where love begins to deepen. And let me tell you something most people don't realize. Boundaries don't scare a healthy man. They inspire him. Because boundaries are stability. They tell him where safety lies. When you calmly, confidently say, "This is what I need to feel respected," you're not issuing a threat, you're setting a tone. And that tone says, if you want to love me, learn me. That's not coldness. That's self-awareness. It's emotional maturity wrapped in grace. A woman with strong boundaries doesn't need to shout, doesn't need to prove, doesn't need to chase. Her presence does all the work. She carries herself with a quiet kind of certainty that says, I am not afraid of being alone, but I won't settle for being misunderstood. And that alone shifts everything. Because a man can sense when he's dealing with a woman who values herself. He can feel when she won't play small just to make someone else comfortable. That kind of woman changes the pace of a man's life. She slows him down, makes him think, forces him to look at himself and ask, am I showing up in a way that deserves her? And when he realizes he's with someone who won't accept halfway love, he either steps up or steps out. Either way, her boundary protected her peace. There's a beauty in that strength, because a boundary doesn't say, don't love me. It says, love me with respect. It doesn't say, stay away. It says, come close, but come correct. And that's what keeps a man intrigued, invested, and intentional, not because he's afraid of losing you, but because he finally feels that he's found someone who loves with integrity. See, anyone can fall in love with your softness, but it takes a real man to stay in love with your strength and your boundary. That quiet, unwavering standard you live by becomes the proof that you're not here to play games, you're here to build something real. Because when a woman protects her peace, she doesn't lose love, she teaches love how to last. People often think setting boundaries pushes people away, but it's the complete opposite. Boundaries don't kill attraction, they create it. Because attraction isn't built on how much you give, it's built on how much you respect yourself while giving. When you know where your lines are, you move differently. You speak with calmness, not fear. You give with intention, not desperation. And that balance, that quiet confidence, it draws a man closer without you even trying. You see, most relationships lose their spark when one person starts over, giving just to feel seen. They think the more they do, the more they'll be valued. But love doesn't work like that. A man doesn't fall for a woman because she bends to fit his needs. He falls when he feels her strength, when he sees she won't compromise her worth just to keep him comfortable. That's what makes her stand out from everyone else. She has standards that don't shift with attention. When you set a boundary, you're not saying, I don't care about you. You're saying, I care about myself enough to make sure what we build is healthy. And that's powerful, because men don't crave easy. They crave meaning. They don't stay for the woman who gives them everything. They stay for the woman who makes them earn access. There's something deeply attractive about a woman who doesn't chase validation. She's not afraid of silence, not afraid to take a breath, not afraid to say, this doesn't feel right for me. That stillness, where she stands in her truth instead of reacting, creates respect, and respect is what holds love together when passion fades. It's funny, because boundaries test both people. They show what the relationship is made of. A man who's emotionally immature will see your boundary as resistance, as rejection, as you being difficult. But a man who's ready, he'll see it for what it is, an invitation to rise. Your boundary doesn't push him away, it calls him higher. It says, if you want me, meet me here, at honesty, at consistency, at effort. And when a man rises to that challenge, he doesn't just respect you more, he respects himself more. That's what creates connection. A woman who knows her boundaries doesn't argue her worth. She doesn't beg someone to understand her heart. She lives in alignment with what she believes in, and her actions say everything her words never have to. That's what makes her unforgettable. Because the truth is, emotional independence is one of the most magnetic traits a person can have. When a woman can love deeply but still stand tall on her own, a man feels safe with her. Safe enough to let his guard down, to trust her stability. It's not resistance, it's attraction built on peace. The difference between a boundary and a barrier is emotion. Barriers say, stay out. Boundaries say, here's how we can both stay in. That small difference changes everything. A man starts to understand that your lines aren't about control, they're about care. You're showing him that love can exist with limits, and those limits actually make it stronger. Because when both people know what's okay and what's not, trust grows. And when trust grows, connection deepens. So no, boundaries don't make love smaller, they give it shape. They create a space where two people can grow without losing themselves. They take chaos and turn it into clarity. And for a man who's truly ready, that kind of woman becomes rare gold. Because she's not just another person in his life, she becomes the calm he didn't know he needed. And that's the kind of calm no man ever forgets. When a woman sets a boundary, the kind of man she's with is revealed almost instantly. Because a weak man will see her no as a challenge to his ego, but a strong man will see it as a moment of truth, an opportunity to trust her strength. You can always tell the difference between someone who's in love with control and someone who's in love with connection by how they handle your boundaries. The right man won't fight them, he'll feel safe in them. Because a healthy man doesn't see your no as rejection, he sees it as clarity, and clarity is where real love begins to grow. Boundaries make men feel secure, not attacked. Think about that. When you calmly say, that doesn't work for me, or I need time to think, you're not pushing him away. You're giving him something solid to lean on, honesty. Most people spend their entire lives trying to read mixed signals, guessing where they stand, questioning if love is still there. But when you show him your limits with compassion, you take away all that confusion. You make love simple again. You show him, here's who I am, here's what I need, and here's how we can build something that feels right. That's not rejection, that's maturity. You see, every man deep down craves structure. He may not say it out loud, but he wants to know the boundaries of the heart he's holding. He wants to know how not to hurt you, how not to lose you, how to make you feel safe. When a woman gives him that through her standards, she becomes a safe place, not because she tolerates everything, but because she communicates what she won't tolerate. There's strength in that kind of openness. And that strength, for a man who's ready for real love, is one of the most attractive things he'll ever encounter. A strong man doesn't want to walk on eggshells. He wants direction. He wants to know that when he does cross a line, you won't explode, you'll express. That you'll tell him the truth, not to punish him, but to help him love you better. That's what makes him stay. That's what builds emotional loyalty. Because now, love isn't a guessing game. It's partnership. And here's the part most people miss. When you set a boundary, you're not just defining what he can or can't do. You're defining how much peace you're willing to live with. You're shaping the tone of your connection. Every no, rooted in self-respect, teaches a man something profound, that love is not meant to drain, it's meant to grow. And growth only happens in honesty. When a woman calmly stands in her truth, she teaches a man how to do the same. He learns that emotion doesn't have to mean chaos. He learns that love doesn't have to mean losing yourself. He starts mirroring that energy back. He listens more, reacts less, and shows up differently. Why? Because your boundary gave him a sense of direction, not restriction. It showed him that your heart is structure. The truth is, real love doesn't fear boundaries. It depends on them, because love without direction becomes destruction. And when a man finds a woman who knows how to love deeply, but still draw the line with grace, he feels something rarer: peace. That peace builds trust. And trust is what turns affection into forever. Because a man doesn't fall in love with how easily you say yes. He falls in love with the strength behind your no. Every relationship teaches you something, but the truth is, what it teaches depends entirely on what you tolerate. You can talk about what you want, what you deserve, what you need. But at the end of the day, people don't learn from your words, they learn from your boundaries. You teach love through what you allow. You teach respect through what you walk away from. You teach consistency through what you require. Every time you stay silent when something doesn't feel right, you're teaching that silence means acceptance. Every time you forgive too quickly without change, you're teaching that effort isn't necessary to keep you. And every time you make excuses for bad behavior, you're rewriting your own worth in someone else's mind. The beauty of a boundary isn't in saying no. It's in saying, I value myself too much to live in confusion. That's what makes a man pause. That's what makes him pay attention. Because love, at its core, isn't about how much you can give, it's about how much you protect what you give. And when a woman starts protecting her energy, her time, her peace, she's not being difficult, she's being clear. That clarity builds respect faster than anything else. Think about it. When a man knows that you won't tolerate disrespect, inconsistency, or emotional laziness, he either steps up or steps out. And both are blessings, because one teaches him how to love you better, and the other frees you from someone who never would have. The moment you stop explaining why you deserve better and start showing it through your actions, you change the entire dynamic. Your silence after setting a boundary is louder than any argument you could ever have. It says, I meant what I said, without bitterness, without attitude, just peace. A lot of people mistake peace for passiveness, but they're not the same. Peace doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care enough to stop repeating yourself. You've learned that not every relationship is meant to be saved, and not every apology is meant to be accepted. Sometimes the greatest act of love is walking away so both people can grow. And that kind of strength, that's what leaves an imprint on a man's heart. Because men remember the woman who didn't scream, didn't chase, didn't beg. They remember the woman who calmly said, "This doesn't work for me," and meant it. They remember her because her love had structure. It had boundaries. And those boundaries didn't come from ego, they came from self-awareness. She knew what peace felt like, and she refused to trade it for confusion. That kind of presence commands respect. When you show a man that love has a standard, you give him a chance to rise into it. Not through threats, not through emotional games, but through example. You model what healthy love looks like. You show that love isn't something that erases you, it's something that honors you. And when he realizes that, something changes inside him. He starts thinking before he speaks. He starts showing up differently, because he knows this isn't a woman who will let him coast through love. This is a woman who makes him want to be his best self, not out of fear of losing her, but out of respect for keeping her. Boundaries don't push real love away. They filter it. They separate the temporary from the timeless. Because the truth is, when you teach someone how to treat you, you're not just shaping the relationship. You're shaping their idea of love. And when love learns from your strength, it never forgets it. When you set a boundary, you're not just protecting yourself. You're revealing the truth about the other person. That's the beauty and the test of boundaries. Because anyone can act loving when everything is easy, when there are no limits, when they're getting what they want. But the moment you say, "This is what I need," or "That doesn't feel right to me," you'll see exactly who's in front of you. Boundaries don't break relationships, they expose them. They don't cause problems, they uncover the ones that were already there, but hidden under comfort. The truth is, when you draw a line, the wrong man will always see it as rejection, but the right man will see it as direction. One gets offended, the other gets focused. One argues, the other adjusts. That contrast tells you everything. You'll know who's emotionally mature enough to love you, because love that's real wants to understand your limits, not challenge them. When you say, "I don't feel respected when that happens," a man who truly values you will listen, not defend. He'll take a breath and ask himself, "What can I do differently?" Because he doesn't want to lose your trust. That's the man you build with. But when a man resists your boundaries, when he tries to guilt you, twist your words, or make you feel like you're asking for too much, believe what you're seeing. That's not love trying to grow, that's ego trying to stay in control. And the longer you ignore those signs, the more expensive it becomes for your peace. Boundaries are there to protect your emotional energy from being drained by the wrong people. They're not meant to make life harder, they're meant to make your love life clearer. It's never easy, though. Because the moment you start setting boundaries, you'll feel the pull of old habits, the urge to over-explain, to justify, to soften your truth so it doesn't make anyone uncomfortable. But here's what you have to remember. A boundary doesn't need to be loud to be strong. It doesn't need to come with attitude. It just needs to come with certainty. You can say, "No, that doesn't work for me," and still be kind. You can walk away in peace and still love deeply. The strength is not in how hard you push. It's in how calmly you hold your line. And something powerful happens when you do that. You begin to attract differently because your energy shifts. The people who were drawn to your softness but took advantage of it will fall away, and the people who are drawn to your strength and can match it will show up. Boundaries act like filters. They let the wrong ones fade and make space for the right ones to stay. The truth doesn't scare the right man away, it grounds him. It lets him know he's dealing with someone who won't pretend, someone who means what she says. That's rare. What most people don't realize is that boundaries are not about changing someone else. They're about seeing someone clearly. They help you stop romanticizing potential and start recognizing patterns. And once you can see someone clearly, you can love them realistically. You stop trying to fix them, save them, or explain them. You simply observe how they respond when they can't have their way. Because that reaction tells you everything about how they love. When you set a boundary, you don't lose people who are meant for you. You lose people who were benefiting from your lack of one. And that loss is not rejection, it's redirection. It's life clearing space for something healthier, calmer, and truer to who you are. Because the boundary doesn't scare the right man away. It helps the real one find you. There's one boundary that changes everything, the boundary of emotional self-control. It's the difference between reacting and responding, between chasing and choosing, between losing yourself and standing firm in your worth. When a woman learns to control her emotions, not suppress them, but guide them with wisdom, she becomes unforgettable. Because a calm woman in a world full of noise is rare. A woman who can feel deeply but still think clearly, she doesn't just attract attention, she commands respect. You see, emotional self-control doesn't mean you don't care. It means you've learned that love doesn't require chaos to feel real. It means you don't let someone else's behavior dictate your peace. It's about holding your power in moments where you used to give it away. When a man pulls back, you don't chase. When he tests you, you don't react. When something feels off, you don't start begging for reassurance. You take a breath, step back, and observe. That silence, that patience, that poise, it speaks louder than any argument ever could. Because here's the truth, a woman who can stay grounded in her emotions teaches a man how to trust her. She becomes a source of peace, not pressure. And every man who's lived long enough to know the difference between drama and depth will tell you. Peace is the most attractive thing in the world. It's what keeps him coming back, because in a world full of tension and ego, being with you feels like coming home. When you master your emotions, you stop negotiating your worth. You stop trying to convince anyone to stay. You start realizing that anyone who can walk away from your peace was never meant to stay in your presence. That kind of emotional stability is magnetic, because it doesn't come from pretending you don't feel, it comes from knowing you can handle what you feel without losing yourself in it. You can cry, hurt, or even miss someone, and still hold your standard. That balance between heart and self-respect is where true power lies. Most people think love is about intensity, about constant highs and lows, but that's not love, that's addiction. Real love lives in stability. And a woman with emotional self-control creates that stability. She doesn't build her identity around how much attention she gets or how fast someone texts back. She knows her value is constant. She doesn't beg to be chosen because she already chose herself. And when a man sees that, it humbles him. It challenges him. It inspires him to match her peace. Emotional self-control is not detachment, it's discipline. It's knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to walk away and when to stand your ground. It's realizing that sometimes silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You're not withholding emotion, you're protecting your energy. Because the truth is, you can't love deeply if you're always drained. You can't connect authentically if you're always reacting. The moment you start leading with calm instead of chaos, you shift the dynamic completely. You stop being the one who's chasing love, and you become the one who's chosen because you bring balance where others bring confusion. And when a man experiences that kind of love, steady, secure, grounded, it changes how he sees you. You're not just someone who makes him feel good, you're someone who makes him feel safe. Safe enough to open up, to soften, to stay. And that's when love stops being temporary, because a woman who can love with her heart but lead with her peace is the kind of woman a man never forgets. Because when you control your emotions, you don't just protect your peace. You teach him how to value it forever.